Welcome to Delightfully Dysfunctional, a podcast about navigating the emotions of the human condition and the challenges that come with it. I'm Kaylani Persian Mason, a psychotherapist and life coach with James Timmons, an ever-curious human. This is not a replacement for mental health therapy. Please seek out mental health care if that's what you're needing. This is an opportunity for self-healers to dive deep and understand more about themselves. Welcome back to Delightfully Dysfunctional. I'm Kaylani, and today we are interviewing Chad McClean. He is the founder of Mental Joe, a clothing and apparel brand that is specifically designed to spread awareness about mental health and to increase awareness about psychedelics for mental health, especially with people who have been in the military. And his personal story and journey is really fueling that passion. So I'm so excited to learn more and to dive deep today with you, Chad. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me on and holding the space so we can have the conversation and see who it resonates with.
Yeah. So I'd love to know about what was leading up to you creating this brand.
Oh my God, so much. And
I
I always
know. Yeah,
try,
rewind. Give me the whole backstory.
yeah, I try to. So I really hate talking about like the bad vibes that got me to where I am, right? But I know it's kind of part of the story. Like it's kind of gross to relive some of it, but I
Yeah.
always try to tell it from like a 10,000 foot version, right? Real quick, kind of that elevator pitch, if you will. But
Yeah.
long story short, I'm a Billings, Montana kid. Grew up in Montana my whole life. Grew up in a single mother household with an older brother and a younger
Mm,
sister, and a dad who is an abusive alcoholic.
mm,
And for me, I was just, I wasn't your star quarterback. I wasn't the star shortstop. I was just a kid, man. I was a C student. I didn't really care for school, but I love school. I love the
mm.
interaction and the sociability of it, but like I just wasn't good at school. It wasn't something I put
Yeah.
time into. And so from there I went into the military. I wasn't, qualified, I guess you'd say, to be that college kid, and I didn't quite know what to do. And I wanted to kind of get out of Billings and I wanted to
Mm.
live life a little bit. So I signed up for the military. And through that process, I just went in as a regular infantry grunt, got an airborne slot, went to airborne school. During airborne school, the 75th Ranger Regiment came down and was kind of recruiting. And I said, these guys do some pretty cool shit. Let me sign up. And ended up jumping into RIP, which is Ranger Indoctrination Program. Went through that, graduated, ended up going out to Fort Lewis, Washington, where I was part of the weapons platoon out there, sniper section. I was a Carl Gustav gunner and assistant gunner. And, kind of fast forward through a lot of
Yeah.
that. We ended up doing a jump right in the state that you're at Spokane there. Spokane, I believe it's Fairchild Air Force
Yeah.
Base.
Yeah.
We did a battalion night jump. So Second Ranger Battalion was kind of known for airfield seizures. So we jump to the airfield, we take it over. That's kind of our gig, right? You set up
Mm.
security, allow other planes and things to come land in. But I ended up burning in on that jump, on
Mm.
this night jump. And sadly, it's kind of par for the course. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people like it get injured on these night jumps and what
Yeah.
have you. And I ended up burning in. And I always tell people, I don't know if it was 2 feet, 100 feet.
Mm.
I completely blacked out.
And when you say burning in, can you break that
Yeah.
down for
Yeah,
us?
absolutely. So when you jump, right? So we jump, a combat jump is anywhere from 1,200 to 1,500 feet.
Okay.
So not a lot of room for error, right?
Right.
So it's a static line. You hand the static line off to the jump master. You jump out. The static line ends up pulling your chute for you. Now
Okay.
think of 4 or 5 massive C-130s or C-5s, big airplanes, right?
Right.
And anywhere from 2 to 400 people jumping out of these airplanes all at the same time. So you've got
Right.
400 people, roughly, let's say, in this midnight sky, dark as it can be, and you're floating down. Well, as I look down, there's another parachute below me. And what happens? Parachutes, how do we float? Well, you have air that's captured by the parachute itself. Well, as I'm hovering over this other parachute, I look up, my chutes start to kind of fade down. And
Oh.
so I'm trying to slip risers, I'm trying to run off his parachute. And before you know it, my whole chute ended up collapsing. And then that's where everything went dark.
Ooh,
And that's why I say, I don't know if it's 2 feet, 100 feet. I don't
right.
know what
Right. It
I
was
don't
so
remember.
disorienting.
Yeah. And so when I hit the ground, I was laying there and finally came to, and everything was numb. I couldn't feel my lower half. So I laid there and kind of checked to see if I had compound fractures, finally kind of came to, and reconnected with my squad. Again, fast forward a little bit, get back to the barracks, and I'm in a lot of pain and I've got nowhere to pivot. I'm 19 years old. I don't know who to talk
Mm,
about this, but I'm in a barracks full of alpha males. And I'm like, well,
mm,
I still have to operate. I still got to go on runs. I still got to do my thing.
mm-hmm,
Let me eat some Ranger candy, which is 800
mm,
milligrams Motrin. And then before you know it, Motrin, Oxy, whatever you could get your
right.
hands on to numb that pain so you could still be an operator.
Right.
And we all know how that becomes a very slippery slope.
Mm.
Um,
And
and
is that pretty accepted in the culture too? Kind of the
yeah,
norm.
yeah, it's kind of the norm, you don't talk
Yeah.
about feelings, you don't talk about really pain or anything,
Mm-hmm.
it's the suck it up and drive on kind of atmosphere.
Mm.
And so that's the mentality.
Yeah, so you were just sharing, had some technical issues there, but you were just sharing, Chad, about everything really reaching ahead, and you had stolen some calling cards, I believe, to try to
Yeah.
get a hold of your mom, so you could kind of have an outlet for what you could really feel was building up, all of the pain and the emotions, and there'd been a lot that had happened.
Yeah, I feel like I was spiraling,
Yeah.
like mom was that safe space for me.
Mm,
And, we had phones in the barracks, but like I can't have a real conversation, after everything that just went down,
right.
so that was my thought. Again, I'm 19, just
Yeah.
didn't have the emotional intelligence, right, to make the
No,
right
our brains are not
decision.
fully formed until 25. There's so many
Right.
things we're left to do in those early years. Yeah.
So, so again, so that happens. And, for me, being a kid that was kind of an average student and, again, wasn't, at the top of his game per se, if you want to put it that way, the military, I felt would have been that male role model for me. Right. And so I really wanted to be kind of a soft guy, which is special operations, which is being kind of, as you grow, Ranger Battalion's kind of a place a lot of guys cut their teeth for special operations. It's kind of the first foot in the door. And then from there you kind of climb the ladder. So that was my goal. Well,
Right.
you burn in at 19, I'm popping pills, I'm getting fights in the barracks, I'm trying to call home to mom,
Hmm.
just making all sorts of bad decisions. And I ended up getting made an example of and getting kicked out of Ranger
Hmm.
Battalion. And boy, howdy, did they make an example out of me. And I don't hold any
Mm.
ill will or anything or any of the hazing and any of that stuff that I took, right? It's part of the culture. It's part of why they're amazing war fighters, right?
Mm.
It's just part of the culture. No qualms with that at
Hmm.
all. And me, I felt, I screwed up. I deserved the punishments. So I kind of took a lot of
Mm.
it on the chin and was like, all right, bring it. I deserve it. Bring it on. And so with that, I got out of the military. I did my 4 years and, got out of the military and I was broken.
Yeah.
I was down on myself. I
Were
didn't
you
know which,
experiencing a lot of shame for how, like, the vision of what you wanted
a
really
lot
fell
of shame.
apart? And then there's this uncertainty.
Yeah, a lot of shame. And I carried that shame for 20 plus years.
Oh,
You
that's
know,
heavy.
I hit it, because I was
Hmm.
so embarrassed about how I conducted myself.
Mm.
And so in holding that shame, I felt like in order for me to like hold my place as a man in society, I
Mm.
felt, I had this internal anger and
Yeah.
I became a bar fighter. I'm in
Hmm.
Billings, Montana. I grew up there and, it's Montana. I mean, there's a
Hmm.
lot of rugged men up
Yeah.
there,
I've driven
and
through
it's
Billings many a time.
that's it, and love my folks, but it's
Yeah.
very doggy dog. You have your bar fights that are constant every weekend, and you drink and you go to work, and that's kind of the
Hmm.
culture, sadly. And I fell into that, and it just repeated itself. And one bar fight leads to the next, and the next guy wants to test you, and now you're
Yeah.
in a really bad relationship, and then that relationship falls apart
Mm.
because you don't know how to hold a relationship. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You're so uncomfortable with yourself, much less inviting another person in. And it sounds like kind of in a survival mode and maybe not realizing it.
correct. Yeah, and I had no idea I was in fight or flight constantly. I had no idea I was in survival mode. I just
Yeah.
thought this is the way of living, right? We all
Mm.
live through this. We all have our shit. Big deal. Just, pull up your
Mm.
britches and go about the day kind of mentality.
So
Um,
there must have been a turning point because that doesn't feel like the man who I'm talking to right now.
yeah. Um, yeah, fast forward, I'm going to say 20, 25 years. And again, this is where it kind of gets gnarly, but I hate saying it, but this was the pits of hell for me. I
Mm.
was, I'm with my wife, Carrie, now, but roughly 4.5 years ago, I almost took my life. Uh,
Mm.
and I was just tired. I was tired of
Yeah.
the 20 years of, not living up to my expectations and not really knowing how to meet those standards. Cause again, I'm not holding any ill will towards my dad, but he didn't have the tools to be the man he needed to be or the father that I
Exactly.
needed him to be. Right.
Right. Right.
So I really never had a father figure.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of going through life trying to figure all this crap out on my own and trying to man up, but obviously, in my eyes, missing the beat quite a bit.
Mm.
And 4.5 years ago, I was just tired. Me and my wife got in a huge argument, and I walked into the bedroom and grabbed my handgun and put it to my head and pulled the
Mm.
trigger. There's tension on the trigger, and we're staring at each other just face to face. And it was just silent. She didn't say
Mm.
anything. I didn't say anything. And if I zoom back to that night, I can kind of feel that night now. And I know you know
Hmm.
what I mean by saying that.
Yeah.
Just looking at her, and I can still feel the tension on the trigger.
Mm.
I think I was almost waiting for her to say something stupid, and that trigger would have been pulled. I was
Mm.
just like almost kind of like, go ahead and say something. Prove me wrong. Go
Mm.
ahead, I'll show you kind of an attitude.
Yeah.
Um, And from there, she ended up calling, 911. And, I think we had 4 or 5 sheriffs that ended up showing up because we are in county. So we
Hmm.
had sheriffs that ended up coming to our house. By that time, I put the gun back in the safe
Hmm.
uh, and walked out and sat on the back of my truck, just sat on the tailgate. And these sheriffs
Yeah.
came up. They're like, dude, what is going on? A couple of them had their guns drawn, right? Because they're coming into a situation that they got a call that there's a guy with a handgun.
Right. Yeah. Unknown.
So they're doing their job, right? But thankfully, they all had the empathy to
Mm.
say, hey, dude, like, I know where you're at. Like, I've been there myself. Like, let's
Mm.
get you help.
Wow. I'm so glad that those were the people that showed up for you.
Yeah, hard to talk about a little bit. But then I went to inpatient, and I was there for a good solid week. And through just, trying to think like where things have unraveled, and why am I here? How can I not? Why can't I put things together in life?
Mm.
um, my wife started doing research and she found
Mm.
ketamine. And through that, I make the joke and I tell people like, I think if it was petrified dog shit and you told me like it would fix my brain,
You'd be like, where do
I'm
I get it?
in.
How
Like, where do I
quickly?
sign up? I'm in.
Yeah.
And so she found ketamine and she said, "Are you interested?" I said, "Yes." Like if
Mm.
it's gonna help me and fix me, I'm in. I'm tired of living like this. And
Yeah.
I call it
And
the
I think
gray.
that for so many people, when they are questioning taking their life, it's not like they literally want to not be living, but they just
Yeah.
want to not feel that way anymore and they don't know any other solution.
Correct. And I so feel that. And that's why
Yeah.
I'm so probably brash and very to the point with my veterans and first responders, my average Joes, because I'm
Mm.
like, dude, I know what you're going through because I lived in the gray for 20 plus years. I was on some
Yeah.
kind of pharmaceutical. I was on some kind of SSRI. I was on some
Yeah.
kind of medication to stabilize myself. Um, so found ketamine. And through that process, like this new
Yeah.
Chad
What did you start
2.0.
noticing in those first ketamine sessions? And were you doing IV ketamine?
Yeah, so I've gone all through the gambit. We can talk about that, but I started out
Your
doing
your
IV.
your starter was ketamine.
Yeah, my door opener was ketamine. And I would probably say right around that fourth or fifth ketamine session, I
Mhm.
really started noticing like life started to slow down for me. I didn't feel like I was in this weird, again, we can explain it because I know it now, the fight or flight mode. Like I
Right.
didn't know anything about, I'm a knuckle dragger. Like I didn't know anything about fight or
Yeah.
flight or the vagus nerve. Like I knew nothing about any of that.
Right. Yeah. It's not something that we educate people on. And I think we should,
Correct.
just as we do the ABCs and the one, two, threes.
Yes, I do too. And so I didn't understand that stuff. So
Right.
I started paying attention to my body and where I would get angst and where
Mm.
I'd clench my fist or I'd clench my jaw. And I'd like, okay,
Yeah.
I now had the ability to like what I call zoom out.
Right.
And
That's what
I
I
could,
notice with my clients. It's so cool to hear it from your perspective because I see them actually being able to engage in therapy in a
mhm,
very new way and with a motivation
yeah,
that before had flatlined.
correct. And it's, my brother jokes with me. He's like, you've listened or read more self-help books than Tony Robbins is ever going to write, Chad. Like it was always kind of a little tongue-in-cheek joke with my brother and I, but I knew internally like something was always off with me, but I didn't know what it was or why I was off.
Right.
Right. And so now input ketamine, and now I could finally slow down. I could finally zoom out. I could look at things from a completely different perspective and go, oh, that motivational 18-year-old kid of Chad is still there. You just put him away so you could protect yourself from all of these other things that you thought
Mm,
were coming after you.
mm,
And so with that, I really started to slow down. Really started, okay, what's my purpose in life? Well, why am I here? Like, what is
mhm,
going on? And within those next couple of ketamine sessions, I always say it's somewhere between that seventh and eighth ketamine session, clear as day. And I know you get this, and a lot of your listeners
mm,
will. I had like this vision of go start an apparel company.
mm,
And I'm like, an apparel company? Like, I was in corporate real estate for almost 20 years.
mm,
And now all of a sudden, yeah, I'm supposed to go learn about threads and tri blends and cottons and then learn how to decorate it. And why am I doing this? But it
mm.
kept revisiting me. And then there would be certain people that would get plugged into my life that were like apparel people. And I'm like, well, why is this happening? So just one day I kind of told Carrie, I was like, hey, like I think I'm supposed to do like this apparel thing. And I'm not sure the direction it's going to go, but it's telling me like I feel I've got to talk about non-traditional mental health, and
Mm,
we've got to talk about mental health as we grow this brand. And the whole thought behind Mental Joe as we're growing was when we first launched it was I wanted to be kind of, I don't want to call myself a source of truth, right? Like,
mm.
but I want to feel like I can hold that space for people that are sitting on the fence, that are curious about this stuff, but maybe they're scared because there's some weirdness in our psychedelic
Yeah.
community. And I think that
Hmm.
scares a lot of people off from the outside.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, maybe that's it. We need to hold this space for these people that are really curious and they want to be fixed, but they don't know how
I
to go
love it.
about it.
Yeah. Mental Joe is just the entry point to be able to have those connective moments.
Correct. And it's super simple. We tried chewing on a bunch of different names and how to come up with it, but I don't know why, but same thing, Mental Joe kind of came to me. And the reason it's Mental Joe is, you say mental, you know automatically what we're going to talk about, right? It's
Hmm.
already there in front of your face, but then it's Joe for the GI Joes and the average Joes, right? I grew up in that, you know, GI Joe era of a kid watching Saturday morning cartoons, So it's like, how do we create something that resonates with our GI Joes and our average Joes? And so
Right.
that's what we're really here for. I want to hold that space, like I said, for those average Joes that are out there busting their ass, that they think the only way to get through life is chugging a ball of JD and getting through their
Mm,
pain, and I understand that because I
mhm.
was that guy.
Yeah, when that's all that you see around you. And I
Yep.
think this creates an opportunity to really normalize what healing and really living could look like that there's a different path.
Yep, correct. And so now I'm on this, ketamine, plant-based medicine that now I'm healing. And I'm
Yeah.
starting to look at things from a completely different context and a different level. And I mean, even me, I told myself, like, if I'm going to go on this journey, like, I've got to go to the gym. I've got to eat
Mm,
right. I can't like fall back into the pills and the alcohol and all this other stuff. Like,
right.
I have to continue to level up so people on the outside can look in and go, okay, this dude's doing something different. I was almost 300 pounds.
What?
Yeah,
I
I
can't
was.
picture that. Listeners, if you are not tuning in to the YouTube clip, you should, because this is not a 300-pound man.
And I appreciate that, but it was that I was almost 300 pounds.
Yeah.
My diet was crap. Like I said, I was on some kind of pharmaceutical or I was on some kind of antidepressant. This year, November, I think it was November 8th, it'll be 2 years I've been completely off of SSRIs, pharmaceuticals, you
Mm,
name it. Um,
congratulations. Yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
There's so many, I mean, it really speaks to the amount of emotional pain you were having from these past traumas that had accumulated because of all of the things that you were numbing. Food is numbing,
Yeah.
alcohol is numbing, pills are numbing. It was anything you could do to not feel.
Correct. And
And
you said it,
yeah.
diet. I was a sugar hound. If there were
Mhm.
6 cupcakes on the counter, I ate 5 of them. And if no one got to that sixth one within 24 hours, I was gone too. Like it was that dopamine hit, right? That
Yeah.
immediate satisfaction of that sugar rush that I would get. But yeah, fast forward now, and I'm a massive cannabis advocate. I'm a massive psychedelic advocate, and I talk about this stuff constantly to all sorts of people, and I just vomit it because it's like when I see people, and I know you can relate to this and a lot of your listeners, when I see people that might not be putting their best foot forward, or
Mhm.
or maybe they're very overweight, or that you can just kind of tell they're just that energy is kind of, I'm like, I internally really empathize with that. I'm like, man, like, I wish you'd open up your eyes to other ways because you don't have to live like this. I promise you don't have to live like this.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're trying to do with our brand is create kind of a culture, a community of like, hey, like there is other ways to heal. There are other ways to talk about this. And I'm not talking like we have to keep regurgitating this stuff and live in the yuck all the time, but it's part of most of our life stories. Everybody's got some kind of yuck or grade that they've lived in. How do we get on the other side of that and live better?
Yeah. And instead of ignoring it, instead of pretending it's not there and like living unconsciously.
Yes, I was numb. I would probably say the reason I've got so much energy about this stuff and why I'm so
Mhm.
gun ho about pushing everything as hard as we can forward is I feel like I wasted 20 to 25 years of my life living, just like you said,
Mhm.
numb. I didn't know what
Mhm.
love was. I didn't know
Mhm.
what it felt. I didn't know what empathy meant. I couldn't even empathize with people. I was just like, shut up, put on your shoes and go to work, you bum.
Yeah, yeah, because it was like you couldn't if you can't love, I mean that saying, if you can't love yourself, you can't love others. It really is actually so very true
So
because it
true.
comes with so much more compassion rather than judgment and
Yep.
understanding. And there's no way that we can shame ourselves into being better people, right? We've all tried and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think if we want to help the world be better, it also has to be led with love and compassion. You have to know how to produce it with yourself
Mhm.
first.
Yeah, and I didn't know that. And it's
Yeah.
2024 was kind of the year that I said, all right,
Mm.
2024 is going to be the year that I forgive Chad. I'm going to allow
Mm.
myself to love myself. I'm going to allow myself the
I
time
love that.
to fall through the ebbs and flows of life, right? Like we still are going to have down days, but what do those down days look like? All right, set with it, feel it, understand it. Why is this going on? And then knowing, okay, I can sit in this wound licking area for 3 or 4 days. But other than
Mm,
that, you got to get back on the horse and you got to go, Chad. You got things to get done. So now I look at it from a different context where before, like if I screwed up, I expected some kind of punishment, right? I screwed up, give me the punishment. That's I deserve that, right? That was the thought process. If I failed, yep, you failed because you failed in all these other aspects of your life. You're a
mm.
loser. You can't do anything better.
It would just
Now,
reaffirm this belief of not being worthy.
yeah, 100%. And
Mhm.
so now it's okay, I failed. All right, what did I learn from that? How can
Yeah,
I
but
grow
this
from
is
it?
just part of learning. Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't taught, it wasn't that thought
Mm,
process. And I think a lot of people can, resonate with that of like, oh, totally get that. But now that I'm on this other side, all I want to do is fail and I want to fail quick so I can learn quicker, right? Like, give me the failures, give me the no's so I can ask you why you're telling me no, so I can get to maybe a future yes. Like, why no? Let me know. So
yeah.
I am all about like, give me the failures now. Like, I want
Hmm.
to learn and I want to pivot and I want to grow. So let me know where I'm screwing up so I can be a better human being, you know,
Mm.
where that guy
Wow.
wasn't there before.
Right. What difference do you think your family has seen in the last few years since you've really turned things around, really explored psychedelics to help you heal?
I think a massive. There's still, I think, parts of some families that are my
Oh
family
yeah.
members that are on the fence, still kind of, oh, it's Chad. He's going to fall off the rails probably eventually,
Mhm.
right? But my wife can tell you how big of a difference I am as far as even
Mm.
holding space for her, and realizing the pain and trauma that I caused her that put up barriers for her to love me, right? So I,
Mhm.
I understand that now. Just looking how my boys adore me and like I am the dad they need to be, and I fucking know that
Yeah.
without a doubt. And
Oh, that's such a good feeling.
yeah, and it's, and I know there's other people like my sister and mom are looking at me at a different light.
You
I
know
there's
what? It's family are the people that are in your house who the family that you have really chosen to be by
yeah,
your side day in, day out, and that's who matters.
100%. And it's cool because as we're building this mental Joe community, they've literally seen the glass shattered, Chad, to where I've grown now and where we're building this
Right.
community. It's literally seeing Carrie and I grow as a couple and as parents, and they can resonate with that and be like, okay, maybe I
Mhm.
will try that. And so that's one of the really cool parts about mental Joe is the people that reach out to us. There's a whole other side. Forget apparel, we
Right.
get people on the weekly reaching out to us of, hey, I live in X state and where can I find microdosing protocols, or where can I go get a retreat, or what's a good ketamine clinic look like? So
Yeah,
we're
you've really
fielding those.
become a huge resource to people that feel comfortable, and you do. There's just a natural thing about you that instantly allows for someone to be very comfortable. I feel
I
that with
appreciate that.
you.
I
And
appreciate that.
I think just reflecting on the way you speak about your wife and your honesty with the struggles that you've had and where things are now, how you've supported one another. I know that there are so many men and women who feel a little bit stuck because they love
Yeah.
someone and they don't know what to do. They
Yep.
don't know how to like help them break free. And they get these glimmers of that person, but it's fleeting and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And there's just a really beautiful essence of hope, not just as an individual, but as a couple and as a family, in what it looks like for all members to be thriving.
Yeah. And again, it's why I speak about this stuff all the time. And it's like, it's part of conversations. And it's really kind of cool because, like, now there's people that are like, now they kind of understand what Carrie and I are doing. And we're building like a little community here in the Phoenix area where
Yeah.
now people are kind of coming up to Carrie and I and saying, hey, where can we go? Who's a good therapist? Who can we do with this? And we give them those tools. Like, here's resources we have. Here's people that we vetted. Here's people that we know hold that space for you. And these are the locations they're at, right? So
Mhm.
as you know, when we connected, like, you will be a resource for us for folks that are in, Washington and stuff. Like, I believe wholeheartedly that these things, like, again, rip the labels off of them. Let's forget what our
Yeah.
government agencies have told us about these things, and let's look at them for what they are. And there hasn't been anybody that we've ever referred out or have gotten help that has come back and said, I wish I'd never done that.
No, because
Almost every
if you're sending them to the right people and the
Yep,
people that you trust, like someone who can hold that space, and I've seen it firsthand, the beautiful way that healing can unfold in ways that, although I still love talk therapy and it needs to be an element of that healing, it
totally.
cannot do that kind of heavy lifting.
No, and you know this, and we hear it throughout the community. Anybody that goes in and does this stuff, they will tell you, like, I literally did 20 years of therapy in a weekend.
Yeah.
Like, who else, like, what pharmaceutical drug has that ability? It's not out there. Sorry, folks. Like, if traditional healing worked or therapy worked, we wouldn't have the suicide epidemic that we have. We wouldn't have the mental health issues that we have in our culture or society if all these tools really worked.
I think they're all valuable tools in the toolbox, but I think that psychedelics is the collective medicines are the super tool that,
Agreed.
like for some people, those are methods that work. And I think the combination is unique to everyone,
Hmm.
but this is a tool that we've used as humans in civilizations, documented like
Thousands
thousands,
of years.
thousands, thousands of years.
Yep.
And so it's just that in our lifetime and in our parents' or grandparents' lifetime, that we've had this more twisted perception of what that is, when
Yes.
really it's been used for healing and spirituality. And so much, I think, too, of what's missing and in the sickness and the mental health is like a loss of a sense of spirit. And I'm like,
Hmm.
use whatever term you want for what that is.
Yep.
But what psychedelics provide is a connectedness and a creativity and a way to re-experience awe again
Yes.
with life.
Yes.
And that's what it's
Beautiful.
about.
No, beautifully put. And I agree with you. It's, same thing, like the talk therapy, all that stuff. Those are great tools. Again, go back to the joke that I had with my brother of, like, Chad, you've listened or read more books than Tony Robbins will write, because those are all good tools, right? The problem is I had this default mode network in the brain
Right.
that didn't allow me to put those things into play. Like, I knew they're there, I knew the standard, but for some reason I got into that default mode network and it just kept repeating itself. And I was like, but I know there's another version of Chad, but how do I get to that person?
Right.
Psychedelics unlocked that for me because now I had all the tools. I just needed something to kind of jumpstart the motor and move me forward.
Yeah. And what are what are some of the cool conversations and feedback that you've gotten since starting Mental Joe? Actually, I should have shared at the beginning. I'd like to explain more about how I had met you.
Yeah,
Because we were at the psychedelic science conference back in, wait, it was
2023.
23. Okay, yes. And I was so excited. I was actually had maybe had 6 months or so of being a ketamine assisted psychotherapist and was just so excited for community, because something I'm also realizing in what you've said is that like many of us who are excited about psychedelics, our communities might not be built up to a point that we live in currently, that there's
Yeah,
that same support. It might feel like you are alone. That's certainly the case for me. I'm only one of two ketamine assisted psychotherapists in my community.
yeah,
But then when you get to connect with someone else, it's like summer camp. You are just
it
like,
is.
yes, you get it. Like there's such a depth of exciting conversation that can happen. So we're at this convention where everyone is like, woo, we're excited about the science, about the medicine, about the connection. And I see your brand, which I'm going to stand up and show everyone. I hope my camera lets me. Woo,
Boom, I love it. Into the
love
storm.
it. Yes. And I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but I grew up on a bison farm in northern Minnesota. So, I've seen many a time out my front window a blizzard coming in, 2 feet of snow, and they're standing into the wind, and their huge heads and everything is just covered in this blanket of snow. And it was a normal thing in my daily life to witness. And now, as a mental health care professional, to like combine what that really means, like step into and be curious about yourself and your emotions and your trauma. Don't let that that default mode take over to the point that you're numb.
Yeah.
And in my office, I have a picture of a buffalo. So I stopped and I saw you and I was excited and we were talking. Um, oh gosh, my light just flickered. And I said, I want to have you on my podcast. And then life happened, and it has been this long for me to contact you. And it was just so fun to reconnect, and you had remembered that encounter as well.
Yeah.
So thank you for still being available.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's one of those things like I've learned in this space too, like because again, I was in corporate real estate and everything has to happen quickly to close a deal, right? It's go, go, go. And now that I've kind of come to this, I guess, ecosystem, if you want to call it, or community, like I realize people are busy and it's like we'll connect when we need to connect. Not a big deal. Love you. See ya. We'll catch up when we catch up, right? Like I know that
Very
it,
different culture. My husband works in title and escrow, so I
oh,
understand
so
the
you get it.
culture. My
Yeah.
mom is a realtor. Yeah.
Oh, wow. There you
Uh-huh. No,
go.
I do.
Full
I get it very
circle.
much. So it feels like a detox, I'm sure, to take steps away from that, because I think that that really it makes healing difficult when you're having to stay on that wheel.
It does. It does. And now that I'm off the wheel per se, I like I said, I can slow down. But same thing. I still have like those bad days, like my shoulder's all jacked up, so it's like, okay, I got to rehab. I can't go to the gym as hard. What are the things I can focus on? Well, it's taking better care of myself, making sure the diet's on point, journaling, trying to meditate better, all these other tools that we can lean on of times that maybe we need those because I don't have the full gym outlet like I need right now.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's just what psychedelics has done for me. It's made me a better dad. It's made me a better
Mhm.
person. It's I can really feel now people. The empathy part, like it's really there.
Mhm.
Like sad, I can't go to Vegas really much. Like Vegas used to be a second town for me. I used to party my butt off over there. But I go to Vegas now and it's almost really sad to me.
Yeah,
I really see where people are disconnected and they're there to partying. That's fine and have fun and do your jazz, but it's a really sad city to me now.
right.
To where before I would go there and I had a blast. I would go there all the
Mhm.
time. But
Mhm.
now I really look at things, and I know you get this. I really look at things from a completely different context now.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
that's where we
Not
want to
about
level up.
numbing, but about like how do I experience life more?
Yes, that's a beautiful way to put it. How do I live? Because again, there's no pause button, there's no rewind button. And again,
Mhm.
like I said, I feel like I wasted 20 to 25 years of my life. So now it's how do I live life to the fullest? How many more glass ceilings are in
Mhm.
front of Chad that I can break? Well, there's a lot more things I want to do.
Yeah.
So let's do those things.
And more than that, I think I hear you saying, and how do I help other people wake up and live more too? Like that was really the purpose that you found in your healing.
I did, and it's wild, right? Because I know everyone's on their own journey. So it's like a double-edged sword for me, right? Like I know
Mhm.
you can't push people to it. We can lead them to the water, but I can't make them drink it. But for me, that's what's so goddamn frustrating, right? Because it's like, guys, I lived in the gray for 20 years. I know what you're going through. Like I have no skin in the game of you healing.
Right.
Right. At the end of the day, could really care less. I don't gain any momentum by you healing. but I want you to, because there's this other whole side of
I
life that I
know.
promise you, if you go through your yuck and you face it head on into the Storm Buffalo shirt, life's
Mhm.
better. I promise you. But you have to be willing to put in the work, and you've got to be willing to look at these things from a different context, again, as opposed to how we've been told about what these things are.
Yes, that was so well said, Chad. Thank you. Yes. And I say often, like, I want to live in a world where you are here and you are healed and you are fully living. Like, there's nothing more exciting to me
Yep.
than to see people make that change,
Yeah.
and to champion it. So I'm over here, I'm everyone's cheerleader, and I feel that from the energy from you too.
Yeah, I am.
He
It's
doesn't look like it, folks, but he's got cheerleader energy.
I don't know if I can get the splits, but I'll give a high kick every once in a while. But yeah, I mean, that's what it comes down to. And so that's where we're building the mental Joe is, right? We want to build a community. We want to build awareness. And through our t-shirt designs, as you've seen some of them, it elicits a conversation. Like, they're different from
Yeah,
everything you see. It's an immediate, what is that? And what's it
they're
mean?
really
Okay.
cool. I have a really cool Sasquatch one too, guys. You got to check it out. It's a little I can't say the word for that type of mushroom, but you get it.
And yeah, it's on my shirt. I always screw it up too. That it was an Amanita
Thank
muscario,
you,
right?
Emma. Yes.
Trust me,
Someone
I
can correct
always
us in the comments.
that's it. I always say it's the Mario mushroom,
Mario mushroom. I
because
know,
that
isn't it
everyone
funny that the Mario mushroom is a psilocybin mushroom and the majority of people don't know?
don't have a clue. Don't
Yeah.
have a clue. And guess what? We all played the video game when we were little, getting the mushrooms so we can grow. That's it.
Yeah, right? Mushroom. Ah, you're so right. Oh, you should also watch The Lion King now with a little microdose, and it'll
Ooh,
all make sense.
okay. I'm in. That might be a thing we do over Christmas then.
Well, so when you make a purchase with Mental Joe, you're not only getting an opportunity to spread an important message and be a part of creating that change and creating those conversations, but it also goes towards providing opportunities for people who have been in the military or in, is it just the military? I'm sorry, or is it also,
No,
right,
I always try to encompass everybody.
right.
Like veterans is my passion, right? That's kind of my
Hmm.
community. First responders, right? There's another
Right.
brotherhood there, a sisterhood, and then just your average Joes. So I say everybody
Right.
from your military to your average Joes. Um, and again, that's where we're helping. The whole goal behind this is to be such a successful apparel company that I can sit down at my desk and I can write $1 million checks to retreats and ketamine clinics that we partner up with. And that's, again, that's the whole part about creating a community that we trust,
Mhm.
because, maybe there's people at your front door that need the help, but they can't fully afford it. Okay, cool. What's that price point look like? How can I write that? And boom, I
Yeah.
know you're going to take care of those people. So again, as we grow, like, that's what I want to do. I want to write those checks to these organizations that are actually doing the healing work and holding that space for people. I'll be the
Mhm.
loud, brash guy that stirs the pot that has really cool t-shirts, and help the community that way, through communication. But yeah, we help
Yeah.
everyone from your veterans all the way down to your average Joes.
Oh, thank you for the clarification. Yeah, so this is just such an important cause that you're supporting, and I loved that we got to have this candid conversation with you and for our listeners to really get a feel for the brand that they will be supporting and getting to know more about your personal story. Because at the end of the day, I think that those stories are just such gold, and I just appreciate your openness and your honesty with us.
Well, I appreciate having me on and holding that space so we can run through the life of Chad McClean.
Yeah, it sounds like a good book title too. Just throwing that idea out there.
Okay. All right. Maybe my brother's a writer, so we'll see.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, thank you so much, Chad. Dear listeners, please check out the link that we will have in the description of this video so you can learn more about Mental Joe and Chad McClean. And if you have any other questions that you're wanting regarding what he's able to provide, please reach out to him there. Thank you so much, and we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.